All right, we should be live, and this is the eCommerceaholic Friday live stream. Formerly known as Beer and E-commerce, although nobody seems to be bringing beer anymore. I am drinking the John Emerald single malt here, so this will give me the calorie range to stay on my couch to 5K plan that I'm working on. And I've got a couple of interesting guests today, and we're going to talk about, I'll let them introduce themselves, but we're going to talk about the Magento Distributed Contribution Day that's coming up tomorrow. So excited about that. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, fellas, while I pour myself a drink here.
All right, cool. I'll kick off then. So I am David Manners. I'm part of Magento's community engineering team. Today I'm drinking some English breakfast tea. I'm from the UK, but I don't live there. So whenever I get a chance to drink tea, real tea, I got to take it. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it today.
Hi, my name's Cal Evans. I am basically a PHP community gadfly. I just show up at places. It used to be my job to show up and drink. And for today, I am drinking Altmore 12-year Scotch, single malt Scotch. Got it for Christmas from my wife, the lovely and talented Kathy. So
nice. So, David, why don't you tell us a little bit about Magento Distributed, or let's just talk about, I guess, the contribution days that are done in general, and how is this one different?
Right. So contribution days in general for us, or for, I guess, the world, I hope we do it like the rest of the world. We're trying to do it as much like the rest of the PHP world as we can. But basically, it's a day for anyone who has ever wanted to contribute, but has maybe never started to, or maybe even experienced people, is to get together and share your knowledge, share your experience. And if it is someone that's never done it, then we have people from the Magento team or our maintainers that are there to help you along the way. But we also help the more experienced people. They can, get on with it without our help. But if they have more detailed questions, they can come and ask us, which is great. But the Magento world is a very, very global world, just like the PHP world in general. And so often having it limited to one location, one event, one whatever, means we were limited in the outreach we could get. So what we're trying out this time, and we're going to try it a few times through the year, is this kind of distributed event where we have a set time, but not a set location. So if you're close to a location, then get out there and come to the location. If you're not close to a location but want to get involved, then get on the live streams, get on the Slack chat, get on whatever. And we're trying to make it so, and this is the tough bit, trying to make it so even if you're not in a location, it still feels like you're in a location. That's going to be tough, and I'm going to do my best tomorrow to make it feel like that for anyone involved.
Okay, so is there, I guess, can we post in the chat, or perhaps we can link to it in the description of this video? Maybe, you're going to be on the community engineering live stream. Is that on YouTube? Can we link to the Slack channel? How do people get more involved if they're, because, I mean, obviously most people are going to be too far away from one of these locations to participate. So how do they find you so that they can be involved and not be a loner?
So the best way is getting on our Slack. I posted a video today on the community engineering channel with all the information you could ever want, hopefully. If it's not, message me and I'll do it. So I will link that if I can find it. And yeah, just getting on to that. I think the live stream, because it is coming out of our Ukrainian campus, will probably be on the Magento Ukraine YouTube. In fact, it definitely will be. But all that information, I will post it in the chat. It may get blocked because it's a link. Yes.
Got blocked. Okay, well, I'll update the description of this video to post it. We'll put it on Twitter as well. Yeah. If you can't find it, I'm easy to find on Twitter. So just reach out and I will get you that information if you want to participate.
Nice. My Twitter handle is Manners D. So Manners, my surname, and D, and reach out to me at any point. If you want to talk about community engineering, I'm probably the best go-to. If I don't know the answer, I can poke the right people to get the answer to you. That's my job description at the moment, is poking the right people in Magento.
I got a question for you.
Let's go.
And that used to be part of my description when I was at Zen the first time, except it was, if I don't know the answer, I'll make one up for you. So, but
okay.
No. So how does this work? I want to sit down and I want to participate. Do I need a full-blown development stack ready to go before I can participate, or what do you have to do? Because I'm new to Magento, so what do I need to have to get started?
Sorry, my internet just dropped out. I missed.
Oh, that was a great question too, and you soiled it. Like that was so good.
I got to how do I want to put, and then it broke until just the last question.
I want to participate in the distributed contribution day tomorrow, but I'm brand new to the Magento community. What do I need? Do I need a full-blown development stack already set up, or what resources are there to help me get started?
Super question. So I posted a blog this week with all the information from, hopefully from I've never contributed ever in the world. Doesn't even have to be from a Magento point of view. So what we would love is if you had an environment set up locally already, but if you don't, we will have people that can kind of help you through the process. There's a great dev docs. We have a Magento dev docs. There's a great article in there on how to set up for contribution. So in terms of getting your fork set up, if you've never done stuff with GitHub, forking a repository essentially means making you have a copy of it so you can work on that, and then you can provide the code back to the main Magento repository. We also have a good document on unit and integration tests, because that is important for us. So yeah, but then of course, the big thing is any questions. So we have our Slack channel. We have our EngCom Slack. And if you need access to it, hopefully in the description, we'll have a link to the article, which then, you can get into our Slack channel from that. And yeah, reach out to the team. There are, I think we're up to 9 members of the team, myself included. Reach out to one of us and just say, we're nice people, I hope. If we're not nice people, then tell someone at Magento and we'll sort it out, you know. But we want to help you get involved. It makes our life easier. It gives us a job, you know. So hopefully we are the nicest people when it comes to contribution, because that's what we want. It needs to be open.
Now, would you say you're 9 people? That's the community engineering team? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I think it's 9. We hired 2 more people in the last week. So we're either at 9, 10, or 11. Let's put it that way.
Somewhere around 9.
Exactly. More than 8, I know for sure.
So why don't you fill us in? I mean, for those that don't know, you never can tell who's gonna stumble upon this video. What is the Magento community engineering team? What's its purpose? What's its focus?
So the focus, okay, so Magento has always been open source, in quotes, right? In terms of, from a license point of view, it's open source. And as of a year ago, this team was set up with a few people. I believe it started with 4 or 5 people, with Max, with an unpronounceable Ukrainian name as a surname, involved. And the aim was, let's actually start getting pull requests in. Let's actually make this an open source project rather than just open source in terms of license. So my aim, my goal as part of this team is turning people who were previously just consuming Magento to people that are contributing it. So if you want to shape the way Magento is going, that's what we're here for. You know, we are running projects in terms of like the MSI project, multi-source inventory, or import-export or whatever. And in those projects, it's you as a community member saying, I want to help out, and us as Magento saying, okay, cool, here are all the resources. Here's the access to the core architects. Here's the, let's be completely open on this. So here's how the process works. Here's where we're going. Let's, openness. I don't know if I can say open more in a paragraph or so.
Just every other word needs to be open.
That's exactly.
Just a general rule of thumb when you're talking about Magento, open source Magento,
exactly.
or the open enterprise edition that's not open source technically. Just keep saying open.
Open source. Open.
So how long have you been with Magento?
Since October.
Oh, so you're brand new.
I'm brand new, brand spanking new, and I'm not in an office, so I've been to one Magento office in my life.
So you're going to make it over to Imagine, or?
I will be at Imagine. This is my second time in Imagine. I was there a couple of years ago. I will be this year. I am unsure whether I will do the run. I'm tempted to do the big damn run. I did it before. I loved it. But I'm kind of thinking, since my role in Magento is open source, I probably shouldn't miss the hackathon.
Well, you could. I don't know if you can do both.
I did both last time I was there, but I'm not sure. As from a employee point of view, I'm not sure. I'll figure it out.
I mean, it's not a competition, but if you're afraid that I'm going to train for 7 weeks in my shape and beat you, it's okay if you want to back out. Like if you're scared, that's cool.
I mean,
at all, right? It's not a competition. It's not a competition.
Oh, it might be now, man. It might be now.
Yeah,
are you going to make it to
invited me to participate in the big damn run, and I told him that I would require a golf cart and still need extra oxygen. So
it can also be the big damn walk if you want it to be. Yeah. That's an option, and it may be that for me, at least half of it. We'll see. Go ahead.
From my point of view, I will be at Imagine. And if anyone that's there wants to talk about a contribution and open source, reach out to me. But since I'm a remote person, I work remotely, I'm trying to make this remote contribution. You know what I mean? I want it so people are contributing wherever they are. They don't just have to go like, oh, I'm at Imagine, I'll do some contribution, or I'm at event X. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Hopefully, this is the first one. So disclaimer, things won't run as smoothly as we want them to. Just going to put it out there. By the end of the year, maybe we'll have it sorted. We'll find out.
How often are you looking to have these remote distributed contribution days?
Between once and X amounts a year.
1 plus.
Yeah, 1 plus. Yeah, exactly. 1 plus. No, I know there's like we did the Hacktoberfest, so along with that last year, and we did like a Magento specific, or like kind of on the back of that. And I think we'll probably be looking to do at least once more around that time of year as part of that. But as to how often we do it, if it's a massive success, then awesome. But like I was saying, I don't want it to be like I only contribute at events. And so if this is a way of getting people in, amazing. If people come to an event and then don't contribute afterwards, then we have an issue, and that's part of my job, is to resolve it so it's as easy and comfortable for people to contribute during events as outside of events.
I got another question for you.
Yeah, man.
So I'm participating. I've got my dev stack set up and I'm participating, everything. What do I work on? Do you have a list of tickets? Are the tickets assigned by lottery, or do I just, hey, I want to write this, and I go and start writing things?
So we have a project under our GitHub repository. There is a community. Let me get the right words. I'm super prepared for today. Under the Magento/Magento 2 repository on GitHub, you'll see the project tabs. And under that, there is a community dashboard. It's project number 13, if you're interested. And basically, these are kind of our like triaged, approved issues. So currently in the to-do column, we have 177 issues that are ready for anyone to pick up at any point, right? We have 1,000 issues that are in GitHub. A lot of them are duplicates. A lot of them are older versions we no longer support, etc. So part of this event is we're going to try and clean that up as well. So if you want to just get involved and get contributing, then this project is the best way of doing it. But if there is something specific you love, like if you're like, I am a security person, then there is the right labels in GitHub, hopefully, to find that security problem or like things that could be more to your liking, if that makes sense. There in our Slack as well, there is groups based on words escape me, based on like projects. So if you're interested in PWA stuff or import export or MSI, then that's probably the best place, is to jump into the Slack, find the right channel for you. But if it's the first time you've ever contributed, I would recommend jumping on that the project list with the community ones and finding something that is kind of inside your comfort or maybe knowledge zone, so that you kind of get used to the process of contribution before you kind of on something that's a bit more comfortable to you first. That's how I did it. I started contributing to Magento in December of 2016, I guess. And I was big into, I'd just done a big API project, and I was big into, or the thing that annoyed me the most was Zen Framework 1 was still being used, especially with like all the JSON stuff. And so I set this goal of removing it because I'd just been into the Symfony serializer and I loved it so much. And I'm like, I want the joy I had there to be joyful for everyone in the Magento world. As of 2.3, there will be no more Zen Framework 1 for the JSON, at least, and for the capture. And that was my last year, so that was fun.
Trust me, so Zen Framework 1 irritated a lot of us. I have the great privilege of actually having authored the very first book on Zen Framework 1. Not the best book, not by any means, but Rob Allen wrote the best book on it. But I did get to write the first one. I worked a lot in Zen Framework 1, so I feel your pain.
Perhaps the worst book? Or
I wouldn't say it was the
first,
worst.
Was it
book.
The first and worst?
No, it's just no. Wasn't the best.
Okay.
The first one can't be the best one, though. You've got to leave room for,
Yeah. No, Rob Allen and his book, I think Manning Press published it, and that was a phenomenal one. And he continues his work with Zen Framework 2 and 3 these days.
So is that really the goal of these organized days, is to kind of, lower the barrier to entry, to try to get people more involved, to try to get them, contributing, or as you would say, contributing throughout the year?
Oh, that made my day. Thanks, man.
Yes. we speaking, I speak English appropriately, and all these British people are just butchering.
That's it. Mock your guests. That's right, the way to get him to come back.
Here's the thing. This
is casual, man. This is casual.
This is like the first time I've been back in the UK for a long time, right? And coming back, so I live in Germany, and I've lived there for 7 years now. So I lived in Germany. I've lived in Germany longer than I've lived in England, because before I was in Scotland. So if anyone can actually pick where my accent is from, go for it. I have a terrible problem now where I think of some words as German words, and I only know them as the German now. And so I will have a moment where it's like, what's the word for, and then what's the English word for, whatever. And it's messed up. So yeah, I'll take that. As with regards to contributing, yeah, I think, or whatever, I don't even, I think for me personally, the goal is to make it as easy as possible for anyone to contribute. So we have our stats and statistics, and we see that we have a lot of people that are regularly contributing, and we love them. But I'm kind of sick of seeing the same faces on the top list, or the same faces on, like, I write the blogs monthly about, oh, cool, who's been contributing? And I'm like, it's the same sort of people, or the same, and I'm like, I want it to be that I want to see a bit more diversity, a bit more new people, and I want to see some great developers that maybe are not so well known, and get some love from the community, even, because they've started some contribution. So I want to make it as easy and as open for anyone, really.
Well, I mean, just the the idea of the community contributing to the platform is one of the great strengths of Magento in general. You can't, if you have a SaaS platform or a closed source platform, then you just don't even have that opportunity. Like, that's not even possible. So to see over the last year, really, it kind of come to fruition where Magento is really not only more accepting of pull requests, but actually sponsoring and organizing initiatives like this. I think it just is going to widen that divide between them being the best e-commerce platform in the world and all of the competitors.
I would hope so. Otherwise, I also agree. Otherwise, I should be in a different job. Let's put it that way.
Going to be looking for a new position if it doesn't work out. So you guys get in there, contribute.
Yeah. I think one of the stuff there's this incredible to see. Like, I have access to all the stats, and we're trying to make it as public as possible, the stats. But it's incredible to see how much it's changed since the team started on the 1st of February 2017. You know, how much we've changed, how much of a positive impact Magento has been able to put on its own product purely by saying, okay, these people just focus on the GitHub stuff and make it as easy as possible for people to contribute. Let's not make it like I tried to contribute previously with Magento 1. It's like, send this patch to this person, and I'm like, let's make it as easy as possible, strip down the barriers, and not just from a contribution point of view, from a code contribution, but from like a product point of view, like people contributing ideas of where Magento could be going, getting people. We're gonna start doing at some point having like a architectural, like open architectural council meetings and stuff, so you can get involved from an architectural point of view, from issue validation point of view. That's completely valid from contributing. Raising your issues is also completely valid as a contribution, you know, and it's incredible to see what kind of reaction we've had since February last year, you know, and it's just a joy from my point of view.
David, I got one for you. Since February of last year, you've had this community contribution team working out there. What's the coolest thing that you've had since then come into Magento from the community?
Oh, has to be hands down from me, is because the coolest thing that comes in soon, which is MSI. But the coolest thing that has already been in is the one-click purchase stuff that came in from basically once the Payton left, you know, Amazon, and I think on the next day we had that pull request in from one of our partners saying, "Here you go. Here's the one-click purchase functionality in place."
Wasn't that BJ Huffpar and his team?
Joshua Warren at Creative.
Josh Warren,
yeah. And I'm like, to think that was not possible in Magento, like, from the time it came in 6 months ago, from the time that came in, is mind-blowing, just to see that we have people that want to do this and we have the capability to allow them to do it is awesome.
I logged into Twitter that day, and I saw the tweet from Joshua Warren's like, "Hey, guess what? Magento or Amazon's one-click purchase expires. Here's a pull request to do that in Magento 2." And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was genius. I'm like, I mean, I felt sick to my stomach that I did not know it was expiring, nor did I think of doing that myself. Like, it was just a stroke of genius on his part. It's got him on a lot of stages. It's really elevated his status in the Magento community. I think very highly of Joshua and his whole creativity team. They seem to be doing a fantastic job, and that was an absolute stroke of genius.
Yeah, and I also personally seeing like the stat of how many new contributors we have, right? So I got it in front of me now, and seeing like consistently for the last since March last year, the lowest amount is 20 a month of new people that have never contributed before, you know, and we're looking at somewhere between 30 and 50 is our average. And 2000. Oh, that's 2000. In 2018 alone, we've had 149 new contributors.
Now, what does an average contribution look like? Or I don't even know how you would say it in your accent there.
My accent. An average contribution.
I can't. You know, I don't know. I can't figure it out, man. But what does an average contribution look like?
So, like today, I was dealing with one from Peter Yap that was to do with the import-export, and it was making sure that if there was a duplicate URL, that the error message actually said, this is the SKU and this is the URL, right? And the fact that that's been missed is, for so long, is incredible. But this is like a 4-line change.
Yeah, but it literally didn't fix anything. It just provided a better error message.
Exactly. And providing even just something as simple as that, or something that could feel as simple as that, providing people with a better feeling, even if it doesn't fix anything, it just gives someone a bit better feedback so they think a bit more positively about Magento, you know? It doesn't change. Magento is no better or no worse from a purely code point of view from that, but from a relationship point of view, I guess is the best way of saying it. So we get things that are like 3 lines. And then also I was with a guy in the JH office today who works for Mozilla. He's on their security team, their front-end security team. And he's like, I've got some spare time and I've done an audit. Here are 10 pull requests. Now, the pull requests may not get accepted as they are, and it may take a lot of discussion or whatever, but just getting him into the right contacts in Magento, like essentially what I was saying before, poking the right people and saying, we've got this guy and he's interested to help us in terms of front-end security. And he's working on Firefox and stuff like that. So from a Mozilla point of view, and it's like, perfect. That's great for me, you know, making those connections. Awesome. It's fantastic, you know.
So is contributing pretty much pull requests, especially around contribution day? Is it about documentation? You know, what all type of contributions are you looking for?
Anything from you, like it could be something as simple as you commenting on an issue, saying this is an issue for me, so that we know it's actually an issue for the community. You know, if someone posts an issue on GitHub, we have 1,000 issues. If someone posts an issue on GitHub and it has 15 thumbs up, then that's a great way for us of filtering it and finding out. So something as simple as going on and saying, this is an issue I'm having, or and it's on this version. That's a great contribution. Or going in and saying, I've tested this on version 2. Whatever, and it's not an issue. Feel free to close it. You know, from anything from issue validation, dev docs as well. So I'll be honest, we have some good documentation and we also have some bad documentation. I think documentation is one of the hardest things in the world to do right, you know? And so that our dev docs is also a GitHub repository. And so pull requests to dev docs. I was in Magento India and we sat down with some of the Magento team. And they were like, how can we contribute with dev docs? So I stepped them through the process and hopefully got them in a way where they could help us out in improving our documents. Because
I'm sorry, did you say Magento?
Magento.
Magento.
Yeah. Brent Peterson.
Brent Peterson. I believe he just kind of got the M upside down when he was thinking of his name.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get there's lots of mage this and something or another Gento. He just stole the whole damn name and just flipped the M to a W.
One letter and it's far enough away from copyright.
Nomad Mage.
Exactly.
I'm required to say that, so.
Yeah, so like I think anything that makes the ecosystem better is a fantastic contribution. So it doesn't have to be code. If you're sat there and you're like, I'm not a coder, but I know how the import works, then jump on and say, how can I help you document the import system a little better? Or, you know, anything from that side of stuff. So not just coders, we want product owners, we want, to be honest, if a merchant comes along and says, this is how we use the admin system, I'd love to see that as a contribution, you know?
Mm-hmm. Hey, you say you're tracking stats. You've had a year now. How much of Magento is now community contributed? How much of the new stuff you're seeing coming in is actually from the community versus people that get paid to do this?
That is the favorite stat of the Magento world at the moment. So we'll do 2017, and I'm not 100% sure if I can share this, but I'm going to share it anyway. Let's put it that way.
Worldwide exclusive.
Worldwide exclusive. No, I posted this in one of the blogs, I think. So looking at all three of our current supported branches, 64% was core and 37% was community contributions, and that was over the whole of 2017.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
It changes. So the new branch, so 2.3 in 2017 was actually 67% community driven. It's changed in 2018, and of course, the core team work in a different way from the community. So these stats are like commits, so percentage of commits.
Right.
So if you take in the last 12 months, it's 50-50. It's pretty darn close to 50-50, which is incredible. But yeah, good. I find it's great to have this kind of stat, but in a way, it's also a bit like, what can you take from that? My favorite stat of the last to look at is our response times. So response time in terms of hours of how quickly we respond to when a pull request comes in. And when we started in February, the stat here I have is the response time was 57 hours. So from creation to first response. And in February this year, we were down at 30. And in November and December, we were down at like 15 hours from creation to response. Now, that's not like a from creation to merge, but giving someone relatively good feedback loops, if that makes sense, in terms of timing.
Yeah.
And it helps that we as a Magento team are relatively widespread. So we have a community engineering team in Austin and in the Ukraine, and then I'm sat in the middle in Germany. Well, it's not really the middle, but close enough.
Yeah.
So we just need and we have maintainers in New Zealand and that side of the world. So we have a relatively good coverage, I think.
So if you're looking at, when you say those stats of 30%, 70%, you're talking about pull requests. And so if a pull request on the community side looks like this error message is broken, I reworded it and added a little more info, would you ever see a pull request that small from an actual Magento core development team? And so I'm trying to kind of figure out a way to correlate the number of pull requests between the actual changes to the platform.
So yeah, so that stat is on number of commits.
Okay.
But the communities tend, it's just generalization, but the community is tending to do smaller pull requests. And so the amount of commits is going to be larger. If you're doing larger, I like these, but I'm not sticking to these stats, if that makes sense. What makes me feel like we're doing a good job is we're getting good feedback from the community, and the community is happy with us. I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, this is, maybe some people would be, but I won't sit there and say we need to get to this certain percentage. There will, of course, be people, there is a good aim to have, but I'm looking forward to people turning around, and I've had it before, and people will say, what is great about Magento in the last year has been the community engineering team, because I feel like I'm being heard, you know? And that's what I'm looking for, you know? So I love these stats, and I think it's great, but there is a bigger picture behind that, you know?
Right.
Like, we got to look at, and also these stats are awesome, but for me, I want to see a more diverse set of contributors, and I think that.
I think we I think we lost you there. Yeah,
we lost me.
That hotel Wi-Fi is starting to betray you a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure what you got, but I was saying I don't want to stick the what we already have in terms of contribution, but I want to spread it out so we see.
Yeah, just trying to grow it.
Exactly.
Hey, let me ask you this, and I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, because this is something I feel in PHP that we fail to do with our the core PHP contributors, the internals team. What does Magento do to recognize those who contribute from the community? Because, I mean, you know, if you say half of them are community, the other half are getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
The community not getting paid to do this. What do y'all do to recognize their contributions?
Yeah, that is awesome. And we have initiatives with regards to the kind of top contributor for the year will get tickets or discounts, or I'm not entirely sure what it is, but in terms of events, in terms of certification, so discounts, or I'm not 100% sure what it is, but like we'll sort out making sure that they can get good prices and whatever on events or discounts.
As long as it's not just a date with Ben Marks, okay? Because nobody wants.
I mean, I will see him tomorrow as long as KLM will get him here. I love Ben, but yes.
I love Ben. Ben's a good friend.
we got. I mean, everyone loves their elephants, right? So we got some Magento elephants sent out to the top contributors, and not just in terms of code contributors, but in terms of like the whole wide process of contribution as well. So like people that write some amazing blogs, they also got, you know, that sort of stuff. So we have socks. Everyone loves them. I run out of t-shirts. Those go super quick. But yeah, I think it's super important because people are doing this outside of work a lot of the time. There are only a few companies that are open-minded enough to say this person can spend work time to do it. And I understand. I was in an agency until October last year. I understand. I looked at it and went, oh, how do I plan the time with these projects and stuff? So, and I think that's something we need to look into as well. And I guess that would fit with the agency live stream as well, is talking about how agencies can empower their employees as well. To like contribution is like you get to talk with core architects who, as an agency, who the hell doesn't want that?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's so much open-minded as it is open-minded and profitable, right? Like you got to have your cash flow act together if you're going to take a day off for one or more developers, especially a small agency, you know, taking a significant portion of their throughput and dedicating that to the actual platform. I mean, it's something we would love to do here, but we're at least a year or two away from being able to pull something like that off on a regular basis.
But it's like sending people to a conference. It's expensive because you've got to pull people off and they're not working. On the other hand, the payback's there. If you've got core contributors, they're digging their hands in the code, and your developers now understand the code better than the next shop that somebody might go to. And you can hang that banner out and say, we contributed this, or we contributed X number of patches back to the core. We know this stuff.
Yeah, I think, and if you market it and sell it a little better, you know, to agencies, there's definitely a payback. You know, I believe if you can get, you know, we've taken a large number of developers to conferences over the last couple of years, including Imagine and Mage Titans and Meet Magento. And, you know, this year we're going to take fewer, but you've got to sell it to them. But at the same time, you know, it's still a tough decision because, like, going to a conference, the travel's expensive, the tickets are expensive, but that's peanuts. The cost of having a developer at Imagine is peanuts compared to the cost of not having them working.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think also one thing to consider is, and we have to be careful from our side on this, is making sure that we're encouraging a healthy environment for contribution in terms of these are people that are working full-time jobs, and then spending a weekend or whatever doing a contribution. And that is not going to last long before there's issues with burnout and that side of stuff, you know? So
valid concern, but most of the people that are going to be contributing like this are people like me. I love coding and discovered people would actually pay me to do this, but I still work on, for the past 2 weeks, I've been working on a WordPress plugin, and I don't think anybody will ever see it. I'm using it myself, but I'm learning something. And so a lot of us just do it because this is our hobby. And when we're not doing it for pay, we're doing it for fun. And you give us an opportunity to do it for Magento, sure, you know, especially if there's a little recognition that comes along.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to consider, and especially when organizing events. Like, we were having a discussion before this event whether we should do it on a Friday or whether we should do it on a Saturday. And a lot of people we've had say Saturday's a family time, and then half the people say Saturday's a family time, and half the people say Saturday's Friday is work time, and it's like, so 2 events to cover both markets, or 2 days, or you know.
No, I think you did good. I would experiment and do the next one on a Friday and see what your participation is. Because I had the same thing when I was organizing conferences. Do you do it Saturday, Sunday? Because it was a local conference. You do it Saturday, Sunday so everybody can go, or do you do it Friday, Saturday so that people can have time with their family? And we eventually ended up, after a couple of years of experimenting, with Friday, Saturday, because that kind of split the difference.
All right. Yeah.
You're never going to please everybody. It's not going to happen. So, you know, try it both ways, maybe alternate so that everybody has an option, you know, because really what you're trying to do is break the ice, right? You want to get them contributing. And so if you can get them in the system, you can get them used to how it works. You can kind of ease them in when there's support around, then maybe they'll contribute throughout the year. So you definitely want to kind of, you know, figure out a way to activate both of those groups.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like what you do.
100%. And I think that's something we've also got to understand as Magento as well, is in the nicest possible way, we do actually have to piss a few people off with our decisions, rather than trying to please everyone and pissing off larger groups, if that makes sense.
Yeah, everybody's trying here, okay? They're trying here. You got to quit being pissed off about small stuff, Magento community.
No one is perfect, and
because that's limited to the Magento community.
No, actually, the Magento community is much better about it than most.
Yeah, and 100%, let's say 99.9999% of the time, no one is doing it deliberately to piss you off. People are human. Let's put it that way.
I will have to say, when I started this project, and I won't keep pumping it, but when I started this project with the Magento community, I had very little experience with it, and getting to know the Magento community, I now have friends in several of the PHP sub-communities, and I consider the Magento community a sub-community of the PHP community. And there's really only a handful of those communities that it's just taxing to be involved in. The Magento community, the people are so nice, and I think that is driven a lot by the work of Sherry Rohde and her sidekick Ben Marks. But you know, they set the standard for the attitude, and it's just wonderful that, you know, I can move between them. And, you know, people, when I go into a Magento event, people don't say, well, are you a Magento developer? No, I'm a PHP developer, but I understand what you're doing. And they don't shun me at that point, you know. And there are sub-communities that if you're not in their community, you're useless, you know. And I love the fact that Magento's not like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think big props go to the Sherry and Ben and what they've kind of done over the last X years. I'm not sure, but I like when I started in Magento 7 years ago, it was very, very warm, very welcoming. I still remember the first people I talked to at a Magento event in Germany when I just moved country. I just started with Magento. I was trying to learn different a different human language as well as coding, essentially. And the environment, the community was just amazing.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, partly luck and partly, just making Magento understood from the beginning, and they hire someone like Ben to kind of be out there and be the face of the organization and curate that community a little bit, and then bringing Sherry in to kind of help take it to that next level. And they're constantly adding things like the Magento Masters program and this contribution day, and they're continuously looking for ways to kind of ease the transition into Magento and to welcome people into the community, and it's paid dividends, over a lot of communities that don't even look at those things until it's too late.
I take pot shots at Ben, but Ben is a good friend of mine, and he knows I'm just teasing with him. And having been in developer relations before, I know the sacrifices he is making, because he's on the road at least 200 days a year, if not 250 days a year. And that's a sacrifice. And he does it. Yes, he's paid to do it, but there are other ways Ben could make money. And he's doing this because he loves that community. And I really respect the work that he does and the work that Sherry does.
Yeah, I wouldn't want the job. No, wouldn't work for me. I couldn't do it. I mean, I love travel, but the best thing about travel for me is coming back home.
Oh,
and that's it. Ben's schedule. Like I'm okay with somebody's got to travel a little bit, but that guy is just insane about it.
Oh, he is. And I didn't do it to his extent, but I lived the life for several years. And, it was to the point where I just kept a suitcase laying in the bedroom. And when I would get home, Kathy would take out the dirty stuff, put in the clean stuff. And so I was ready to hit the road the next weekend. But quite honestly, I'm just getting a little too old for that life. So, it's fun watching Ben do it. But, man, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to go anywhere they're not palm trees and a beach at this point, right?
Dang straight Skippy.
Is that a space shuttle on your shirt? Is that what that is?
It is. I went to NASA, Kennedy Space Center. A couple years ago, PHP Architect did a PHP cruise, and I was one of the speakers. And it was funny. I had to go all the way up to Maryland to catch the boat, and the first stop was Cape Canaveral, which was 2 hours from my house. So, but right. we toured the center, and I bought a T-shirt. So,
David, can we work out a Mage contribution cruise, perhaps? Like everybody, we set up I don't know about internet, but you set up like localized environments, and then everybody just kind of gets on a boat and contributes for a week and drinks. And
so it's not as classy as a cruise, but there is a Magento event in Germany, followed quite shortly by a Magento event in the Netherlands. And I believe the Magento team may possibly looking into hiring a couple of buses and busing people up, and in the meantime doing a hackathon or something. But this is discussions over refreshing beverages, so I'm not sure how confirmed these are or not.
Now help me out. Does Germany and Netherlands, do they have beer there and alcohol, or are they dry? So
there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff here.
No, I spent a year in the Netherlands, so yeah, I am very familiar with those people. Yeah. Wonderful people.
Yeah, I mean, a bus doesn't sound as entertaining to me as, say, let's go down to the Bahamas and do a little cruising and a little, hanging out. But, it's at least interesting. I have talked about, and I'm hoping to be able to do it next year. I want to do the road trip to Imagine. I want to get like my old Impala out, and I want to start on the East Coast and try to find some people and start on the East Coast, and then we'll kind of, go out west, maybe take, Route 66, or try to find some agencies to stop by and see, and just make a week-long trip out to Imagine. But there will be no hacking. There'll be some alcohol consumption, but no hacking going on during that period. But looks like Danielle there in the chat has said she would be on the cruise. And so it sounds like we've got some official Magento participation already. As long as I don't have to come off any money, let me know what I need to do to make this happen. I mean, I'll pay for my ticket. Yeah. But outside of that, like I ain't like renting a boat and then trying to fill it up or something,
As someone that definitely doesn't have any approval on budget, sure, why not?
We got like 10 folks watching. You guys, let's start a petition,
There's got to be a
don't know.
hash, right?
Yeah, like what's the highest ranking Magento official we might be able to get on board? I don't know.
That's a
I
good
don't.
pun. That's a
Yeah.
really good pun. If that
So-
was a pun, I hope.
Yeah, let's figure out who the highest ranking official is. We might be able to talk into this, and if we get enough widespread support, they're going to have to do it. They're going to
Sure.
have to.
I mean, we got enough support that Rebecca's dyeing her hair, so we can do
Exactly.
things. We can make things happen.
As many Magento, what are there? Hundreds of thousands of registered people on the Magento forums right now. So we ought to be able to fill up a cruise ship. Like this ought to be able to happen. This should be feasible. Let's just have Imagine on a boat.
There you go.
Why do we not have Imagine on a boat? We'll fly in Magic Johnson. We'll let him give the keynote, and then he can helicopter off the boat if that's what it takes. Like there are ways of making this happen. It's just an idea. I just floating the idea out there. Who knows?
Sounds great, but I'm out of tea, man. I'm out of tea.
You're out of tea?
You've got ice in that, right? You're ruining that stuff.
No, see, I've got an ice ball though. It's not melting, right?
But
it's a ball.
You're ruining it with ice.
It's a ball of ice, man. It's not melting as fast.
As someone brought it up in Scotland, and also a mix of the UK, I was too polite to say anything, but he's right. You're ruining it.
See, I actually bought the Doers because it came with like the ice ball, like it was a gift set. It came with this glass and an ice ball mold. Only reason I bought it. I'd never had
the Doers away. You just kept the ice mold.
I still don't like Doers, so I got a really expensive glass and ice ball maker because the Doers was miserable. But you live, you learn.
Yeah. It's the Jim Beam of Scotch.
Dude, no. Jim Beam is okay, Jim Beam, fine. But there's something called was it Beam's Gold Star?
Oh,
have you ever had that?
I've not had it, but I've seen it in the store. Is that good?
That is the worst thing I've ever had in my entire life. It is so bad. Oh my God, it is bad. It is like miserable. I'll just have to quit drinking. If that's all we had, I would have to give it up. That was
boy, that is a strong anti-recommendation right there.
I went to some hotel, and I forget what hotel I was staying at, and they had like a happy hour. And hell, it may have been, it may have been Sunshine PHP a couple of years ago.
No,
I went. It may have been. I went to this hotel. I forget which hotel it was. They had a happy hour from like 5 to 6. I go down, and that is the only whiskey they're pouring because it's free. It's like free drink. So I'm like, I mean, is that like Jim Beam? I don't. It's like Jim Beam. I can live with it. And they pulled that Beam's Gold Star and poured it. I'm sorry, and I can't even talk about it. It's messing me up even thinking about how bad it was, man. I've tried to block those memories out. That was not good stuff. So if you get a chance, I highly suggest you try it so you can agree or disagree with me. Don't take my opinion for what do I know? I got water in my whiskey, frozen water, but Cal doesn't seem to like it. So,
oh man.
How could you be in England and run out of tea? Like, is that even physically
Well, no,
possible?
I've got tea. I just ran out of hot water.
Okay.
And no tea is probably better than lukewarm.
What did they say? Put the kettle on?
Exactly. Well, it's right here, man. It's right here. I mean,
literally has a kettle.
What? Yeah. Hilton in Nottingham.
So is there? Hold on. You're in the UK. There you're in Nottingham, and they have a kettle. Do they have a coffee maker, or is it literally just like a teapot?
No, it's like that's the coffee maker right there.
Wow. Okay. Little cultural difference there. Like you're not going to get a tea here. You're just going to get a Keurig if you're lucky.
Yeah. You're going to get a knockoff if you're not lucky.
Yeah, if you're not lucky, God knows what. If you're not lucky, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
You're just going to get a room, with some bed bugs. That hasn't happened to me. So what else you got? We've been on for 54 minutes. We usually go for an hour, but we can talk till we're talked out. Anything else in particular you wanted to chat about?
I did have something, and now my brain has just.
So you were at the offices of JH today?
I was, yes. Really nice offices. Maybe a little too much red going on. Let's just put it that way. But nice offices, great team. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a great team from a development point of view, but from a being nice to me point of view, great team.
They may not be able to code worth a damn, but man, are they nice. Yeah.
Nice people.
All my recommendations about teams is nothing to do with code, everything to do with how nicely they open the front door. Yeah. No, great. It was nice to see everyone. Like, I love the fact, and we said it a little bit before in terms of the community point of view, but I love the fact that I can head out here and it feels like home. And I've never lived in Nottingham. I mean, I've lived about an hour away from Nottingham, but I've never lived in Nottingham. I've been to a few bad gigs here in Nottingham, and that's about as far as I got. But it's nice to see Max Bucknell and Rebecca Brockton, and it's like I've never met Max before. And we sat down and chatted next to each other as if we had worked on opposite desks for years. And I've never met him in person before.
Yeah, we had him on the live stream, I guess, a few weeks ago now, and very, very knowledgeable guy. But you talk about, and I'm sure we'll have him on again at some point. I think he's volunteered if we need fill in. But I'm trying to find technical topics because he brought a lot to that conversation.
Let's do a rugby topic with him. Like as a Kiwi, we started talking about cricket, and Rebecca's there being nice and British, and she's like, "Yeah, great, and we're like, "Have you know what's going on?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, you are very British." I've kind of been desensitized from that side of stuff, being in Germany, where there is no customer service because nothing goes wrong.
Dude, I'm in Alabama. Cricket is that thing that makes a lot of noise right when the sun's going down, That little animal is right out my window that's driving me crazy. That's a cricket.
I'm hearing you.
Yeah. We don't know anything about it. But it's funny you mentioned, judging agencies based on how nice they are. I was actually having this conversation earlier with someone that, they were talking about a particular agency, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really know much about them, but I basically judge agencies by how active they are in the Magento community, right? If I don't see them at events and I don't see them contributing, and I don't, if they're just not active, if they don't have people active on Twitter or the forums, or I don't see them on Stack Exchange, which I don't spend a lot of time there. If they're just not active, then I question their dedication to the platform. And then I don't know. Then I question how good they are at it. And I'm sure that's completely unfair. And I'm sure there's lots of agencies that are just fantastic at Magento development that are not real active in the community. But that, fair or unfair, that's how I judge.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one to judge from that sense. But I think it's a good indicator, but it's not the be all and end all. Like, especially in Germany, there are a lot of people you'll meet at local events that you might not see so much on social media. There's this big privacy thing going on here as well, and has been for a long, long time, and people just don't use it as much, or use the thing in Germany to do is maybe it's a tough topic on Facebook at the moment, but if you go on Facebook, you change your name. You change a few letters around, so the first two of your last name become the first two of your first name, that sort of stuff. Just a different culture, So we got to be careful being a global, worldwide. You can't go to China and be like, if you're not on Twitter in China, you're nothing for Magento, Because
I don't judge the overseas agencies because I don't know anything about them, right? I mean, I don't judge anybody, but I'm just saying, if somebody asks me, what do you think of this agency? I'm like, I don't know anything about them, and I take that as a bad sign. Like, if I don't know anything, and it's funny. I mean, I'm probably the worst person for that to come from, because until 2 years ago, nobody knew who I was or my name or my agency. I mean, we had never been to any event. We didn't do anything. I mean, we were on social media, but we never did anything. And I've been developing in Magento as long as Magento has been developing in Magento. I mean, now they come out with a beta. We started using it, but literally Sunshine PHP 2 years ago was our first event that we had ever been to. Now, we've been to every event in the U.S. since, but it's still one of those where I think to be really up on what's going on with Magento, and there's so many changes nowadays, and there's so much coming with PWA Studio and all of the new features and multi-source inventory, and there's just so much changing that if you're not actively involved enough to where I know who you are, or at least your company's name, or I've seen somebody that works for you, then that's probably a bad sign. It's not the end all be all. It's not a guarantee, but it's a bad sign.
Yeah.
How do you think you could make that and extend it to a more like global sense? Like in terms of, that's great for you as I mean, even America's big, like, you couldn't judge not seeing, I don't know, like a Hawaiian-based agency because you've not seen them out near where you are, kind of thing.
Right, but you're going to see some people contributing on Twitter, or they're going to be on the forums, or they're going to be on Stack Exchange, or they're going to be on that list of Magento contributors, or you're going to see them at Imagine, which you can't hope to see everybody at Imagine and know where they work. But those are the really big areas. Like Mage Titans is great, but I understand a lot of people can't make it to that. Meet Magento is kind of split on dev and merchant focus, so a lot of the development community doesn't necessarily make it out to that. But if you've just got nobody contributing back to the greater good anywhere, or going out there and being educated and learning, that is a bad sign. Now, I'm sure there's only so much I am exposed to as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of companies that are doing those things that I just don't see. And so, it's not, like I said, it's not a condemnation. I've had too much of this. I can't even say words that are more than 3 syllables. It's not a condemnation. I can't say it. That I don't know of you, or I don't know anything you've done, or I haven't seen any of your developers. It just may be a matter of I haven't seen them. Hell, and if they may be out there and they may be saying the same thing about me because they haven't seen me. Because if I haven't run into them, then they haven't run into me. So I understand it. I'm just saying that does skew my perception. When I hear an agency that is a Magento partner, that's been a Magento partner for a long time, that is not very active in the community.
Yeah. I think it's super tricky. Let's put it that way. I don't know. It's very like we were saying earlier. You can't cover everyone, and it's like, especially Imagine, there are a lot of people from Europe or from other continents that can't travel over to Imagine,
Right.
So it's good to, and that's kind of where we as Magento can probably do better, in the sense of making sure we're doing events across different countries, making sure we're open so that people can make it. Same as with this distribution day, distributed contribution day, is like making it so that if you can't make it there to an actual location, you feel just as welcome being remote.
I'm glad to see somebody else is struggling with longer words there as well, and you're just drinking tea. So
my excuse is,
maybe it's just,
it's 9 o'clock back home. I mean, it's 8 o'clock. Wait, I'm super confused now with time zones. But yeah, I think it's it'd be interesting to see how it progresses. And I tweeted a joke about this earlier today. There is at Imagine, there's going to be a dev share or a dev exchange about remote work, and I just tweeted out like saying, this better be able so that people can join remotely. Otherwise, there's something in my brain that, like, we're talking about remote stuff, but you have to be at this event to talk about it. It's like, sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. And as far as overseas, I understand that's a different thing, right? You may be contributing over there. I know there's a lot of companies over there that are contributing to the core and pull requests, and you see a lot of them on social media doing things. But you've also got a lot of emerging markets where perhaps they haven't had a ton of opportunities to contribute thus far. So, you know, I'm not saying we formally judge people based on their contribution to the community. I'm just saying that does kind of paint a picture for me. Like, basically, I'm neutral on the people that don't contribute, and I have a high, I guess, a high value or a high appreciation for those that do. And so, you know, I feel good about those that do. And the funny thing is, those that contribute and show up to everything may be miserable companies. They may be the worst Magento developers in the world. They're just highly visible, you know, so it's a terrible way to judge. But it is funny how that does kind of skew your opinion of somebody.
From an agency point of view, does it come into consideration with regards to hiring and everything, in terms of contribution and visibility and that sort of stuff? Like, how do you balance that?
It does and it doesn't. It depends on the role. If you're contributing and you're very well known in the community, then that does come into play. But ultimately, it's not a deciding factor when I'm looking to actually hire you, right? We want somebody that's really good at the job. So unless the job is contributing to whatever, you know, they contributed to, then it's not the deciding factor, because sometimes people that, you know, are evangelists or are out there very visible are really good at being visible, but not necessarily good at what they're doing. So it's not just because you're highly visible doesn't make you great at what you do. It just means you're really good at being visible. Now, that, you know, that doesn't say they're not really good, but that's not always the case. And I think we've actually interviewed or hired several people that were fairly visible, and visibility was their best asset. And if that's not part of the job requirement, then that doesn't really help us. I want the person that's best for the job, not the person that gives me the most exposure in the community. So, you know, if you're the better developer, even if you haven't contributed and you're working for some little firm in the Midwest, or you're working for a merchant that nobody's ever heard of, if you're the best for the job, that's the person I want. Does that seem to make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And like, while I have you, let's talk about it from your point of view.
I'm an open book. We talk, like I said, this is a casual conversation. Yeah. We have talked about the topic. Nobody's going to watch this for an hour anyway. So at this point, we can just talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. So
how do we get more agencies giving people the flexibility to get involved, to contribute?
I think there's the biggest thing is to increase the reward for doing so. Mm-hmm. If you increase the incentive for them, allowing it to overcome the lack of revenue from having, and honestly, it's something we just want to do anyway. It just hasn't. We just haven't been in a place business wise to be able to do that at this point. So it's not really something you need to do for us, but for agencies in general. Mm-hmm. If it's going to lead to more sales, or it's going to lead to a higher hourly rate, or it's going to lead to more revenue, then they're going to do it. And so, you know, how do you incentivize the agency, not the developer? Because the developers probably want to do it anyway. Most good coders want to code. They like coding. Yeah. They just don't want to have to do it all in their free time. So if we can take Friday afternoon or Friday all day once a month or once a quarter, and we can just contribute to Magento, that they would do that. So how do you incentivize the agencies to allow that possibility is really the key.
Okay.
Well, I think you've answered your own question, though.
We got a backdrop change. What happened?
Battery was getting low, so I had to move inside. Okay. You answered your own question, though, because just before you said that you judge agencies mentally on their visibility, and other people do the same thing. So if I'm looking at two different agencies and one of them has a high profile, or they're out there contributing to the community, that's going to add what the marketers call social proof to that agency's pull on me. And while it might not be the deciding factor, it is a factor in how we make these decisions.
Here's how you do it for me. Put me on stage at Imagine. Put my logo on stage at Imagine. That's pretty much how you do it, right? Because there's 3,000, probably 1,500 merchants running around there. Throw my logo on stage at Imagine in front of everybody, and that's a big incentive, right? As far as like social proof, like I said, we already want to do it because we want to be as visible as possible. But it's got to overcome that revenue struggle by doing it. So I definitely agree with Cal that there's already some incentive, and it doesn't have to be huge. Like I said, recognize the and top contributors is tough because then it's a competition, but recognize the contributing companies at Imagine, recognize them on your social media profile. You already do the Magento Master stuff for individuals. Is there some companies that are really contributing to the greater good of Magento, so it's not so much about a person, but about a company. And that way, the agency gets credit for all of their employees that are contributing. It's just about recognition. That's how you lead to more dollars. It's about recognition. I got lucky enough to be one of the top 50 Magento contributors for last year. And that's great. I don't know, that hasn't necessarily thus far directly led to more sales, but it definitely adds legitimacy to a conversation when I walk into the room. Like people don't ask my credentials so much anymore, right? So it's just about recognition.
Yeah, and being a high-profile member of the PHP community, it's always funny because people think that automatically means that I'm a good programmer, and then they see my code and they realize that it has nothing to do with coding. It's just that I got to a point in my career where I realized I like the sound of my own voice.
You got a great radio voice. That radio voice.
I'm a huge fan of doing presentations that are like, here's how I screwed up, and then because I think especially I've seen it where people will be like, oh, you get up on stage a lot, so you're perfect. And I'm like, all my pull requests are public. You can have a look at the rejected ones as well, right?
It's funny, the whole an evangelist, that whole thing. You build some celebrity in a community, and it's funny to me because I started this YouTube channel and I go to meet Magento and I'm walking through the after party and some guy grabs me in some sort of accent. He's like, "Oh, I know you from the YouTube," and he was like it was a big deal for him, and I'm like, you realize like anybody can upload there, right? Like you just film a video and you just drop it on there. There's no gatekeeper. There's nobody that vets me and says, this guy knows what he's talking about.
But there is. No, because people will stop watching if they don't think you know what you're talking about.
That is true.
Community itself will vet you and you will gain a bad reputation real quick. But I know what you're talking about. I'll never forget the first time. I told you I wrote the first book on Zen Framework 1. And I was over in Amsterdam for an event, and somebody brought a copy up and said, would you sign this? And I'm like, really? I'm just a developer. I just kind of got lucky and slid into this. And it was just amazing to me. And the only thing I have ever come up with to say in those situations is thank you. I don't know what else to say.
I understand. It's you're right though. I mean, the community will vet you. You can continue posting videos, but hopefully the subscriber count is kind of what what decides whether or not you're doing a good job or know what you're talking about or are contributing to the greater good. And I have no idea, like, why I need to check my video here. My video is smaller than y'all's video. That's interesting. That's a technical glitch I'll have to fix for the next live stream, I guess. Always looking to improve. So, all right, guys. Well, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. I think we'll probably call it quits unless anybody's got anything else in particular. Like I said, I'm here. If you got questions, if you want to talk about anything, if you want to get my useless opinion on something, I am open to whatever you want to talk about. I mean, it's only 2:14 in the afternoon here. I still got 2 or 3 hours, so it's no problem.
And at least a half a bottle left. Hey, since I am actually on the clock right now, can I give a shout out to my employer who's actually paying me to be here?
Now let's talk about that a little bit. So you've got a new position in the Magento community. Why don't you tell us? I mean, I'm very familiar with the company, but let's tell us about it. Tell us about your position. What are you doing there?
I'm back in software development and loving every minute of it. I'm remembering why I got into development to begin with. I work for a company called Nexus. We do hosting, and we do a lot of Magento hosting. We've branched out a little bit, apparently, in recent years, but Magento is where we started, and that's where our core love is. But our entire back end is PHP. And so I am on the team that helps manage the entire network operating or network control center software that we run. That's all PHP, and I'm on that team. And it's a wonderful company. I had a flat tire on my car. I had to take it up to the dealership. And so this morning I sat at the dealership for 4 hours, made a patch, committed code, all remotely. I can't say enough about how wonderful the team is. I love the fact that I'm on the software development team, and the CEO of the company is on my team, and he actively contributes code. Matter of fact, when I did my 2 weeks on site, when Chris was in the office, he was in the cube right across from me. And so I got to know him, and just wonderful people. Can't say enough of them. And again, they let me do things like this, even though there is no direct benefit to them. They're just nice people.
So, I mean, Nexus is very, very involved in the Magento community. Mm-hmm. So very, very highly thought of. Do you know, we need to talk about whether or not they might be interested in sponsoring a live stream, or perhaps, we've got a series of meetups we're looking for sponsors for. I mean, just
actually, I was looking to see if we could get them to brand the ship for the floating Magento cruise.
Yes, the Nexus Magento cruise. Yes,
there you go.
Much bigger thinking.
Chris, I have not committed us to this. Don't worry.
No, it's a done deal. I heard he's really tight with the CEO. It's yeah. Yeah,
but they're great people, and I've worked at more than my fair share of companies floated around over the years, and there's only been probably 2 or 3 companies that I said, I could stay here for a while. Usually people like me, we get a job, we land a job, we learn the job, and we start looking for the next job. But this is some place that I really feel I could plant roots and be here a while, and I hope to, because they're such nice people.
Good. That's good to hear. I'm glad you're liking it. So, and you're actually writing code. You said you were working on WordPress, though?
Oh, on my all my spare projects, or my personal projects, I run on WordPress. And the project I run with Phil, and we do another one similar just for PHP, and those are WordPress. And I've started playing with a new product called Mautic, Mautic. And you can find the open source version at mautic.org, but it's marketing automation, but it's open source. And a friend of mine from the Joomla community, Don Gilbert, is now one of their head programmers. And I got to play him with it, and it's a real fun platform. And I use it for one of my mailing lists and part of one of my other mailing lists. And I've just been writing a plugin that does some integration, but it's been fun because I've never had to write I've never had to do the OAuth dance, and I'm having to do that to integrate these 2 products, and I'm learning something. Like I said, nobody will ever see this plugin but me, but it's fun for me.
Yeah, I understand. So if you're on your day job there at Nexus, are you writing code for Magento, or?
No, I strictly work on the back end.
Okay.
We don't touch any client code or anything like that. We've got a team. I think there's, not counting Chris, I think there's 5 of us now that manage the entire back end for the company. So
I got you. So and talk a little bit about, you kind of touched on the thing you're doing with Philip. I'm assuming you're talking about Nomad Mage.
Yes, I am.
And then you've got
you hit the problem on the head. Conferences are great not only for the learning but for the hallway track. But to send somebody, you have people out of the office, you have travel expenses and all that. And I've got a friend of mine who's very active in the PHP community that lives on, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Marusha, which is a small island off the coast of Madagascar, which is an island off the coast of Africa.
That's where we're cruising to, by the way, when we do this Nexus cruise. Yeah,
Karate would love that. But I mean, Marusha has an airport that on a windy day you can't land Mauritius. I'm sorry, you can't land a hot air balloon. I mean, it's not a big island, but he's very active in the community. But he would never get to go to any of the conferences, never get to see these people speaking. So we started up Nomad PHP, and then I started talking with Phil Jackson, and I said, why don't we do the same thing for Magento? Because you got the same problem. Agencies can't afford to send the entire team most of the time to a conference, but they can get a subscription to Nomad Mage, and everybody can sit around and at least learn the things. And then what we encourage the teams to do is sit down and watch the video. They're usually an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour, but then dedicate another 15 to 20 minutes to discussing how you can apply these concepts to the code you're currently working on, and start, because that gets the ball rolling. You start thinking about that. It might not pay off for another month or two, but it will pay off. So those are my two projects. Oh, it's nomadphp.com and nomadmage.com.
And you also had the book about brown bagging your development team?
Yes, brown bagging, and it's apropos that he's got a bottle of whiskey right here. No, brown bag training programs. Build your brown bag training program, and I give this away. You can go out on Amazon and buy it for $10 if you really want to, but I give it to anybody who wants it. But it's how to build a brown bag lunch program for your team. And honestly, the hardest thing, because I've run these before for my teams, the hardest thing is finding content. I've either got to pay somebody to sit and build a program, or I've got to go buy content or something. And if you subscribe to one of the Nomads, you've got the content for 2 weeks every month covered for you. So, or 1 week if it's Magento.
Yeah, it's a great program. They've had some great speakers on there, lots of really in-depth Magento topics. So if you get a chance, I highly suggest that you look at Nomad Mage. If you own an agency, it's good developers, great developers are always looking to learn. They're always looking to get better. They want to continue to expand their knowledge. And if you're not sending them to conferences, if you're not giving them that training, then that's going to be a problem. And Nomad Mage definitely, and Nomad PHP kind of fill that void and help you retain your top talent.
Thank you for that.
Anytime. Anything. I'll do anything. I'll say anything to get a Magento cruise. Whatever it takes. MageCruise.com. Let somebody register that. Let's get that going. Cruise Gento. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it.
Well, I tweeted out that we're crowdsourcing it, and somebody's already retweeted or replied back with, seriously? So.
big problem would be location, right?
Yeah.
Like where would the cruise be?
Oh, no, we can cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. Everybody come to Fort Lauderdale. We'll party at my house the night before. We'll head on out and cruise the Caribbean.
I think you might be underestimating the size of the people, the crowd size if we're going to be renting an entire cruise ship.
Well, no, as long as it's after 6 p.m., I got a whole golf course behind me. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just mess that up.
We'll set up tables and put a bar out there.
We do need to look in to see if there's like some place we can set up, and then everybody kind of, goes and registers and pays a deposit. And then if we don't get enough, it all gets refunded. I'll leave that to Nexus to set up and organize, somebody that can actually, organize something that large.
There you go.
Or Magento themselves if they want to. Anyway.
Well, Ben Marks has got like 2 days at home coming up.
That's got to be enough, right?
I'm pretty sure he's got enough frequent flyer miles to get us all to the cruise.
All to Fort Lauderdale, yeah.
Yeah, every one of us. So, it's worth the shot.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a question. Sure. Right?
Oh, sure.
What do you think of the glasses? Okay, because I literally got them today. These are the first glasses I've ever owned.
Oh, dude, you were wearing those glasses.
I mean, they look natural. I didn't look at them and say, that's a guy that's never worn glasses.
I literally picked them up 20 minutes before this call. So yeah.
I'm glad you could see us in crystal clear HD.
My whole family have glasses, and I've always put it off. And I had this morning, afternoon, whatever, and there's a place right next to my hotel. And walking out to JH, I just walked in, and I'm like, I think I probably should get my eyes tested. Do you have an appointment? They're like, yeah, sure. You can collect in an hour, kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So I now wear glasses.
That's what I do on international trips as well. Is I'm like, I'm in a foreign country, and God knows if my insurance is going to work. But you know what? Let's go get my eyes tested, see how this works out.
Next time I'm in Puerto Rico, major surgery, dude.
See, it's a bit different for me. I at least have a UK passport. I might not have the insurance for UK, but it's fine, right?
Yeah, I mean they look good, man. I didn't even know. I didn't even know.
TJ, are you going to Imagine this year?
Oh, absolutely. Won't miss.
Awesome. I finally get to go this year, and so I think I emailed. Oh, you replied. Yeah, I'm going to want to do an interview with you for my podcast. So, and Daniel, I'd love to find you if you're going to be there and do an interview with you as well.
I'm there.
I love putting people on the spot like that.
Whatever. I did the Mage Talk one in the first ever conference I was an official Magento employee for, and Phil's like, let's do one. I'm like, okay, cool. And he's asking me these questions. I'm like, I'm not sure what I can and can't say, but so here it is. Here's everything.
I'm much nicer than Phil on these.
Okay.
My podcast is all about the PHP community. We rarely talk tech. We talk about community and things like that. And I think that's a topic you know a little bit about. So
maybe a little. Yeah, I used to do Mage Engage, which was the least technical Magento podcast there was in the world.
Yeah. Well, I tried a technical podcast one time, but that's way too much work. So, and I'm all about minimizing the amount of work I actually have to do. So.
Yeah, my opinion there are plenty smarter people than me around. So let's do something that I'm interested in, which is being nosy about people's lives.
Matthias is testing your eyesight there, David, in the chat. He wants. Yeah, he's just wondering if you can read the message there.
Yes, kind of. If I take them off, not so much.
He got the glasses just for this live stream so he could read your chats.
Yeah, that was it. He's a good guy. From my scale of, he was nice to me when I met him. So I don't know anything about his code, but he's a very, very nice guy. We had a burger together in Frankfurt when he was in Germany.
That's pretty much your standard response, isn't it? I don't know anything about their code, but they were nice people.
Yeah, don't sue me if you hire them and they're terrible, but they'll be all right for going out for some food.
There are worse standards to have. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if there's anybody at Imagine you wanna try to get on the podcast, Kyle, and I can help, just let me know. There's a lot of great people in the community, and they're usually pretty open. I mean, we've had some great folks on this live stream so far. And so it's been pretty simple. I mean, a lot of cancellations, last minute scheduling conflicts, that kind of stuff. But you work around that, and people are really open to anything to help the community kind of stuff, right? As far as exposure and content, people have been really awesome about it. So I'm sure I can. Just make sure you remember a few things at Imagine if this is your first one. There are two types of people. They're the people that get there early, and they're the people that stay out all night. And don't run with both of them. I'm usually the only guy that's done that, and this will be the first year I don't even do that. I'll be showing up late for everything, and parasol up. If you get lost and into the conference, it's over, the parties are over, and you're like, what am I going to do? I'm bored. Just go to parasol up, and until it closes early in the morning. There's usually a lot of Magento folks there.
Very cool.
So.
Looking forward to it.
It's a good time, man. A lot of drinks and cigars, and conversing with a lot of folks. Building a lot of friendships. There's a lot of great friendships I have just from the Magento conferences. Some of them have been on this show, but it's a good time, man. I highly suggest Imagine. If you can get there, you need to get there. All the other conferences are good. And I suggest doing those as well. But if you only got one, make it Imagine.
Oh, and bonus this year, because Phil Jackson's hair is the MC. So
yeah, it's going to be a change. Hopefully it's a good change. I don't know. I mean, I think was it I forget the name.
Jamie.
Jamie. I keep
Yeah.
wanting to call him Jeremy, but it's Jamie. I knew that was wrong.
I mean, he's left now, so you can call him whatever you like.
Well,
Right?
but, you know, Benedict Clark, you know, went over to the dark side there. But he did a fabulous job. It was really entertaining. He did a great job. I've only been to a couple of Imagines now. This will be my third year in a row. So he's been the MC for both that I've been to, and it was really enjoyable. I think Philip will do a great job.
Yeah.
I think Philip's smart enough to know not to try to emulate what, you know, Jamie did, because that guy's, I think he's a little unstable. You know, he's pretty crazy. He's all over the place. But
well, Phil will put his stamp on it.
Yeah, he'll just be himself and do his thing, and I think it'll be wonderful. So I'm excited to see how it goes. You know, anytime somebody changes something up that you enjoy, it's always like, But I think I'm expecting. I mean, there's a lot of good things coming from Magento. They just the way they're promoting it and a lot of stuff. I expect them to up their game a little bit, and I don't know how much bigger and better it can be at the same venue. But, you know, it's the parties, the after parties have been great. You know, the parties that the partners have been having that are kind of offshoots of the conference, the Big Damn Run, the Hackathon, Pre-Imagine, you know, make sure you arrive Sunday at the latest Sunday afternoon to go to Pre-Imagine. They always do everything right. And so I don't know how you top that or get bigger and better with it, but I'm expecting a lot from them.
Yeah. I'll be getting there early Sunday afternoon. I don't know if I'll make Pre-Imagine. I'm coming in straight from Longhorn PHP. I'm the closing keynote at Longhorn, and then turning right around and heading into Imagine. So gonna be a fun extended week for me.
Nice.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there. I think even to see how they like the new masters stuff with the pictures they did with the blog posts and the articles. I'm like, that is awesome, and something I hadn't seen from Magento for a long time. So I think it's cool to see the changes, and I think I'd love to say, I mean, I'm employed by them, so I have to say, but I'm very, very happy with the way stuff has been going over the last couple of years, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Imagine.
I'm excited because they're going to have some of the Magento elephants there. And see, what people don't know is I've got probably the largest collection of PHP elephants there is. I've got almost all of them. And my wife has her own collection. And she has some of them, but not all of them. And Sherry sent me one of those beautiful gray Magento elephants. And basically, because there's only one, I've been sleeping on the couch since we got it. So I'm hoping if I can get there and buy another one from somebody, that I can at least go back to sleeping in a bed.
That's awesome. All right, guys. I think, it's been an hour and a half. I think I'm going to call it quits for today. I got to go hit the gym and get ready and train for this 5K and then get started on the weekend. So I appreciate y'all being on. Always a good time. And I look forward to seeing both of you at Imagine.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.